Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me again. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about dispersion and how to do it in a consistent way. So, if you've made Psytrance, you probably know that we can use crossovers to manipulate the phase of basses. So, here I have an example of bass line. It's just a raw serum patch. Okay, so it looks like this in the scope. So relatively clean waveform. But if we use something like Saturn, or literally anything that can create a crossover, we can manipulate the phase of the partials around the crossover frequency. So what that looks like is this. Okay, so what's happening is the harmonics around the crossover frequency are getting shifted further away in time. And this just changes the phase relationships between these harmonics in your bass line. So what that means is that it's going to change the way it sounds, and it's going to change the way that speakers reproduce that bass. So typically you'll just find the point where crossover sounds good to you, and, happy days. However, if we were then to use a different note, or maybe we have like a melody that happens in the bass, then the pitch of the bass is changing, but the crossover is static. So what that means is the shape of the waveform changes when you play different notes. If I just add another band in here just to make it a little bit more obvious, just a bit more dispersion happening. So we'll play a note. Then when we play a higher note, you can see that the waveform is a considerably different shape. So this matters for two reasons. So the timbre of the bass when it plays different notes is going to be a bit different and maybe not translate so well. And you will also have situations where some notes might be considerably louder in terms of peak value than other notes. So there is a way around this, or there's a number of ways around this. Something that some people like to do is resample the sort of dispersed waveform back into the synthesizer, which is a totally valid option. But if you don't want to do that and you still want your dispersion to be happening externally, the best way I've found to do that is using two plugins. One is Snap Heap, and inside there, you're going to use Disperser. So Disperser works in very similar way to the crossovers in Saturn. It's like a series or many all passes in series, and you kind of just decide how many it's going to pass through. Regardless, it's going to disperse your bass around the point where you set it. So let's just have a look at what that is like. But we still have the same issue that if we change the note, it changes the waveform considerably. So in order to rectify this, what we will need to do is group serum and then create a empty chain. And in that chain, we're going to go into instruments and get external instrument. Then we just send the MIDI out on the external instrument through to this channel, this bass channel, and send it to Snap Heap. Okay, so now Snap Heap is receiving the MIDI, Then we want to go to note modulator, make sure it's in bipolar mode, hook that up with the cutoff frequency, and just make it 100% modulation. So now, when you play different notes, it will retain the exact same shape. So a useful thing to know is if we set the frequency on here to any multiple of A, so any multiple of 55, it will put the crossover point exactly on the frequency of the incoming note. So we can create a couple of these. So maybe one at 110, 220, and we just keep on doubling it. And then what we can do is just dial in little bits of dispersion at these different parts in the waveform and just see what sounds best to us. Okay, so you don't actually need to stack these if you don't want to. I'm just sort of illustrating that you can disperse different parts of the waveform like this. Often useful to have one up at sort of around A7-ish area as well to just sort the transient out a little bit. Makes it a lot more loudness friendly. Perhaps something like that we can be happy with. Okay, so yeah, you can set this up however you like, completely to your own taste. And if you do decide that you want to shift the frequency of all of these dispersers along a bit so that they're not hitting on the exact same note that you're playing, you can just play with this root note here on the note modulator. Okay, that's kind of it really. I thought this was really, really useful, so hopefully you can make use of it too. So anyways, hopefully you enjoy the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time.